Bob Stauffer, our longtime friend, 630 CHED Edmonton, host of Oilers Now, Oilers Calgary. How you doing, Robert?
Good. I see you have a University of Calgary football helmet and a Regina Rams one there. Is that to pay homage to Darrell Leeson, who is the best Canadian-born quarterback I saw in the 20-plus years that I covered in CIS football?
No, it is a waiting for the U of A Golden Bears to send us a helmet. That's what that is.
You know what? They're not very happy with me these days. I was a little critical of their quick decision last year to eliminate their season instead of fighting to stay alive. So otherwise, I might be able, you know what? I might be able to make a call here. We'll see if Chris Morris can come through for you, okay?
Well, I would appreciate that. Let's hope that they get onto the field. Bob, the number one question that came to my mind is this when I thought of this interview this morning. Is this the best Oilers team in your time with the club?
13 years I've done color, and the answer is yes. Just to put things in perspective, right now the Oilers are 10th overall in the league, Rod, but since January 30th, and we're now talking 46 games, it's not like it's a short sample size, Edmonton has the third best winning percentage in the league. The only two teams that have a better winning percentage are Colorado and Vegas, and they're playing in a division, and this is something that, and I'm sure your fans know this, the Pacific Division this year has got three rebuilding California teams in Arizona that really fell off down the stretch. And case in point, Vegas went 21-3 against the three California teams this year. So, Colorado and Vegas are real good teams. A lot of people would suggest they're going to be one of the two Stanley Cup finalists. I think that's a fair assessment. But the Oilers, since January 30th, have had the third best winning percentage in the league. I realize they don't have the perceived depth that other teams have, but they have star power. And you know what? Sometimes star power can take you to special places, and that's what we've seen this season.
Well, fool me once, Bob. Like, I'm not sold on goaltending, and it was your Achilles heel, man. You were in a best-of-5 with Chicago last year, as you know. You will blow one game in the playoffs. You got to win two to get it back. You could do that against Winnipeg. I wouldn't want to risk it. Like, where are you on Mike Smith and Mikko Koskinen going into the playoffs?
Well, first of all, I'd throw out the Oilers' 7-2 record against Winnipeg this season. Winnipeg's got Connor Hellebuyck, the reigning Vezina Trophy winner. I think it has to be stated that even though Mike Smith outplayed Connor Hellebuyck head-to-head this year in the matchups, logic dictates that Winnipeg's got the advantage in goal. They've got a reigning Vezina Trophy winner. So Winnipeg's going to be a tough out for the Oilers if they are indeed to win the series. I'm not one of these guys that's going to sit there and say, oh, the Oilers are going to win in 4 or 5 games. I think the series is going 6 or 7 no matter what. And I think the Mike Smith thing, the one thing I respond to that, Rod, is this because you know a lot of players throughout Western Canada, specifically from your time in Major Junior. There is a cycle, a life cycle that takes place for players. And all I can tell you is I go to Kelowna every year in the summer for a couple of weeks. And there are several people that work in the league there, including several former Oiler employees or owners or those sort of types of individuals. Mike Smith was in dad mode last summer. And I had an assistant general manager who was interviewed for some of the top positions in the league. He's with a really good club, like one of the best 2 or 3 teams in the league. He's going to get a GM's job here in the next year or so. And he told me when we did our pro scout evaluation last year, we threw everything in the bubble out. And his team made it to the Final Four. And that's what they said. So, Mike Smith's sitting there. He's looking after his kids with his wife. And, oh, by the way, we got to go back and you got to start hitting the ice in July to potentially play in August. He had a bad period and a half. That's what happened. And it was a best of 5, not a best of 7. The Oilers were playing a Chicago team that knew how to win. Say what you want. They still had at that stage Jonathan Toews, Patrick Kane, Duncan Keith. Those are 3 surefire Hall of Fame players. The Oilers actually had a losing record last year against Chicago. The Hawks won 2 of the 3 games. And Chicago only finished 11 points behind Edmonton in the regular season. So I was not a guy that thought the Oilers were just going to walk all over Chicago. I said Chicago was all wrong for Edmonton. I didn't expect Pittsburgh to lose to Montreal last year, but I thought the Hawks could beat the Oilers. And I'm telling you right now, because I respect what Winnipeg's got, though we're not sure if Nikolai Ehlers is going to start, Rod, I think that Winnipeg is a really good team. And I think that they're going to be they're a little light on defense. Edmonton's going to have to pound Pionk, and they're going to have to get to Josh Morrissey. Those guys are real good defensemen, but they're small. But Winnipeg's absolutely capable of beating the Oilers, and goaltending will be a significant matchup in the series.
pausing this freight train that is Bob Stauffer to drop in a comment from a viewer. Evan Dom, who is now the marketing and branding director with the Regina Pats, and we think the world of him, says, "Hi, Bob, U of A Sports Information Director Emeritus." Evan Dom chiming in just to say hi.
Well, that's because I'm one as well from 2000 to 2008. So I worked a lot with Evan's father, Rob Dom. Alberta had a 900 winning percentage the last 5 years there. And you can see when programs are elevating. And when Rob took that program over in 94, 95, the Bears missed the playoffs. And it took him a couple of years for recruiting and that sort of thing and putting in structure and process to really get Alberta back to being a preeminent program in the country. And he won 3 national titles in his 7 years. You know, Rod, you asked me, is this the best Oilers team? I'm in year 13 with the Oilers. I did 13 years with the Golden Bears. They won 6 national championships in those 13 years, and the 3 best teams they had never won. You know, it's a very different situation in the NHL, to say the least. But what I would say is structure and process. You know, you brought up Buffalo. You had a texter just before I came on talking about the Sabres and where Eichel might go. The Oilers might have gotten a little bit lucky here, and I'll tell you why. 2 years ago, nobody thought Edmonton was going to be in this position right now. Bob Nicholson interviewed 12 to 14 people. You broke the story on Ken Holland coming to Edmonton. You were the guy that was the first guy to say Ken Holland's going to be the next GM of the Edmonton Oilers. Edmonton went with experience, and contrast that with Buffalo. They've gone with inexperience, and it's just been a carousel of absolute failure. And now their top guys want out. And contrast that with Edmonton, where the Oilers' top guys, McDavid, Draisaitl, and Darnell Nurse, are driving the team and thoroughly engaged. And some of that has to do with bringing in a veteran general manager in Ken Holland and a veteran head coach in Dave Tippett, who put in structure and process in the team's game. Edmonton's got the best power play in the league 2 years in a row and a top 10 PK as well.
Yeah, but I like what you said about the best team doesn't always win. I'll be thinking about that for the rest of the day. But on the goaltending thing, it was Connor Hellebuck against Cam Talbot last year. Who would have thought Talbot would win that first-round matchup in the Jets and the Flames? And you said the Jets have a good team. Well, I'm not even sure they think they have a good team, especially without Nikolai Ehlers. Bob, you watch the games. I feel like their confidence is shot, and it's getting kind of late to get it back here in time for the playoffs.
Well, they got one game left, right? They play the Leafs, and who knows who those teams are going to drive. I'm going to concede. I think Winnipeg's got a good team. I actually thought the start of the year, because I'm not the biggest Patrick Laine fan. To me, he's a little bit disengaged, and you got to be committed to play. You know, they went and they made a deal and they got Dubois. And I'm like, wow, look at the strength they have down the middle between Scheifele, Dubois, and Adam Lowry, who you know well. And I thought Winnipeg would be better in the regular season, but part of it's just been the way they've closed. I mean, they've got just 2 wins in their last 11 games. I say throw it out. I'm not saying throw out Edmonton's 46-game run, but I would say throw out an 11-game run at the end of the year when Winnipeg was fairly much home and cooled in the playoffs. So I think they're going to be a tough challenge. And don't forget last year when the Jets lost that series to Calgary, they lost Mark Scheifele in the second shift of that series. And you know what? Matthew Tkachuk was in Blake Wheeler's head opening face-off of that first game. He challenged him to a fight. And you could see the look on Wheeler's face. And the Flames physically pounded what they got in the heads of the Winnipeg Jets from the get-go. And then Tkachuk got a piece of Scheifele on the injury. And it was all downhill from Winnipeg at that point.
Okay, so from our viewers, John Ohm, watching in Winnipeg, says, love this guy. Bob, you rock. He says, go, Jets, go. He says the Jets will have to find a way to defend McDavid. From Patrolman Pete in Winnipeg, he says the Jets didn't back into the playoffs so much as they dragged their rotting carcass into the playoffs. And I say this as a Jets fan. Could you get into number 98's head? Is it possible?
To McDavid's head?
Yeah. Number 97. I'm thinking of our Connor Bedard. Sorry. 97 McDavid, yeah.
Your Connor Bedard's pretty good. I mean, I saw Dylan Guenther play 7 regular season games with the Edmonton Oil Kings, and he got completely overshadowed in that U18 by Bedard and obviously Shane Wright. Connor McDavid, you know what? It's funny because, Rod, I know we've talked about this privately off the air. Like, we have Wayne Gretzky traveling with us. This is the first year we didn't travel for the broadcasters in the 13 years that I've done the game. Wayne's been around the team a fair amount the last 3 or 4 years. He's very gracious with his time. I've had a lot of conversations with him about Connor, about, where is Connor relative to the lexicon of stars out there. I don't think we've ever seen a guy this advanced, this fast, this skilled. The only way you can get to McDavid is if you layer him defensively. You have to take away his ice through the neutral ice area, and you got to really limit the amount of gap you give him once he does get past the first set of forwards, or through the set of forwards. And then in terms of the defense, they can't give up too much space because he can beat you. I'll be intrigued to see how Dave Tippett deploys McDavid and Draisaitl. Do they have them each on their own line? I think that is going to be the case to start the series. But McDavid has just he's owned Winnipeg this year. He's good friends with Mark Scheifele, and for whatever reason, he elevates against Winnipeg. That's a good question by the texter. Can they handle McDavid? They didn't do it in the regular season. Playoffs are a different animal. There's fewer penalties called. That plays into Winnipeg's advantage. Edmonton's over 2.5% better than anybody else in the league on the power play this year. So the fewer penalties you take against the Oilers, the more it's going to help you, because the Oilers can kill you with the extra man.
Oh, it's going to be exciting. It's going to be very exciting. Hey, can you take a stab at our poll question? Who's going to be the next coach of the New York Rangers? Our options are Gerard Gallant, John Tortorella, Mark Messier, or other, but that's literally just throwing 3 names in the air. Any thoughts on that?
Yeah, from Imperial, Saskatchewan, the move they should make, they won't, but the move they should make, Chris Knoblauch. That's the guy. He's touched all the bases, right? He's coached in junior. He took Kootenay to the Memorial Cup. He lost his job in Kootenay because he wanted the University of Alberta job, and Kootenay was cheap at the time and weren't paying. He ended up in Erie. You know the story. The Oilers loaned Sherry Basson a lot of money, and Chris ended up first junior coach in major junior history, 4 straight 50-plus win seasons. He's been an NHL assistant with the Flyers. He's coached the Rangers farm team the last 2 years. That's the guy that should. And how did they play when he came up this year and replaced David Quinn? They couldn't score before he replaced Quinn. Then they beat the Flyers 9-0 in the first game. The guy breeds offensive confidence, and he doesn't screw around and play mind games with players. He is today's coach. That's the guy that they should hire.
Nice answer, Bob. And by the way, not only, I'm not sure they lost a game when Knoblauch was coaching. For sure, they won way more than they lost. Joe Lazito's watching in New York, and he says, regarding the poll question, Jim Dolan will want the appearance of a home run and hire Messier, but in my opinion, they'd better be better off with Chris Knoblauch. Clearly, Dolan doesn't listen to his people, so we'll see. But I'm with you, Bob, on Knoblauch. Listen, man, we're following very close. I was listening to you on the radio yesterday. Keep it up, man. I always enjoy our visits.
Reach out anytime. Take care.
All right, bud. Bob Stauffer, 630 CHED. Oilers color man and the host of Oilers Now.
You're watching Rod Pedersen On Demand. For more of the Rod Pedersen Show, visit rodpedersen.com or follow Rod Pedersen on social media.